Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Dashboard Fridays. I'm Adam from Squared Up, and today I'm joined by my former colleague Samir, who's now a principal Azure Stack technologist over at Dell. Hey Samir.
Hey Adam, hi everyone.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's nice having a friendly face on a Dashboard Fridays. In your new life over at Dell, you work with Azure Stack, right? And today we have
Yeah,
an Azure Stack HCI dashboard. Why don't
yeah,
you just start by just introing what Azure Stack is briefly, and then we'll jump into the dashboard.
sure. So Azure Stack actually is a family of product now. So it consists of two products, Azure Stack Hub and Azure Stack HCI. The one I have, the dashboard I have today is for Azure Stack HCI. So let's not talk about Hub in this session. Maybe we'll have another session for Azure Stack Hub and its dashboard. But today we are talking about Azure Stack HCI, right? So HCI is basically, it has two components in it, Azure Stack and then HCI. For those who are not familiar with how infrastructure side of data center works, so basically, formally or legacy, you have three-tier SAN infrastructure where you've got three different infrastructure components, right? So you've got servers for compute, you've got storage devices for storage, and then you've got switches and routers and all that networking components, right? So the problem with that is these are three different siloed infrastructure, and they're tricky to manage, let's say. So what HCI does basically, it's a hyper converged infrastructure. So it just combines them all together, and it just it combines them into a one single appliance that you can use it for everything. Azure Stack HCI is basically an operating system that goes on top of that infrastructure, right? So it is just basically acts as a hypervisor level, where you can just install the OS and then you can go and install what we call secondary operating systems on it. It's just basically like an Hyper-V. So Azure Stack HCI is basically a more modernized or streamlined version or advanced version of Hyper-V. Um, so yeah, so you install just like HCI at the base level, and then on top of it, you install your VMs. You can also do Azure Kubernetes services and all the other PaaS services that Microsoft is nowadays bringing onto HCI infrastructure, right? So as part of it, actually, so they have released a management pack for SCOM, because everything that goes on top of Azure Stack HCI is basically Windows estate, right? Because like I said, Hyper-V is at the core of this, and Microsoft already has monitoring tools and monitoring packs for Hyper-V. Then it has at the core of software-defined storage in Azure Stack HCI, there is Storage Spaces Direct, which is also called S2D. It's been there for since I think 2016 now. So it's already pretty established, and Microsoft has already invested a lot into S2D and its management packs and SCOM and everything, right? So Azure Stack HCI management pack, basically what it does is it just combines all these different pre-existing, let's say, management packs together, and then just bundled it as Azure Stack HCI management pack. So when you go ahead and install that management pack, what you basically do is you install a base core Azure Stack HCI operating system management pack, and then on top of it, you install Windows Server management pack, you install S2D management pack, you install SDN management pack, you install Hyper-V management pack, and all of that will basically just combine and work as Azure Stack HCI management pack.
Nice. So at its core, it's in a very sort of simple terms. It's basically bring your own hardware, but give you sort of Azure feeling services on top of it, but leveraging
Absolutely.
existing trusted mature sort of Windows services like storage spaces and you know Hyper-V obviously at its core, that kind of thing. And then they've taken the same approach with monitoring, and they've bundled together some existing
Yeah.
stuff and given it a sort of a rebrand and some extra functionality. How about I'll bring
Yeah.
up the dashboard now. So
Sure.
this is obviously a SCOM dashboard, all SCOM data. If you
Mm-hmm.
were using Community Edition, I guess you could spend a bit of time PowerShelling all of this data straight out of the data warehouse, something like that. But for now, we'll
Yeah.
stick to this being a SCOM dashboard, and yeah, give us a little tour through it.
Yeah, I'll just go address that real quick, the community edition, Adam, right? So you can, of course, definitely do that. And probably you could do it in much more efficient way, in the sense that you could use APIs, because Azure Stack HCI also uses the same APIs as Azure, public services and all that, right? So you can actually go ahead, use those APIs and build your dashboard that way also. And PowerShell, like you said, all of this is sitting on your infrastructure actually, so you are in control of everything. So you can go up to the core level using PowerShell, the Hyper-V level, the S2D level, and everything, right? So you can actually go and build probably a better dashboard than this. But since I just wanted to explore, so this dashboard came along, actually, there's a little story, right? So the releases of this management pack and the new version of SCOM actually kind of, coincided together. So that actually piqued my curiosity, so to say. And I wanted to check both SCOM and the management pack out. So I just went ahead and spun up a SCOM machine. This is like a all-in-one deployment of SCOM management group, right? So this, everything is here in this machine. And then I just went ahead, created a quick cluster. So admittedly, what you see here, the data you see here, Adam, this is coming from, yes, granted, it is coming from an HCI cluster, which is very real. But this is a software cluster, let's say, right? So I'm not running this on an actual HCI appliance, right? So what I have is I have a server running somewhere, and then on top of it, I have deployed Azure Stack HCI operating system, which is something that you will not do if you in production. So this is just for the sake of testing. So
sure.
I've done it this way, right?
We've all run hypervisors inside hypervisors, Samir. Don't worry.
Inside hypervisors. This is, you know what? This is actually basically a machine inside a machine of inside a machine. So it's like a 3 or 4 machines layer on top of this.
Yeah, Hyper-V running in VMware with Azure Stack running inside Hyper. We've all been there. Don't worry.
Exactly. Yeah, so this is the cluster. This is a simple two-node cluster, as you see here. So Azure Stack HCI1 and HCI2. Like I said, so this is very, very similar to Windows Server functionality. So all the metrics that you see here are also very, very similar. So actually, Adam, I don't know if you notice this, you see CPU metric and memory metric. They're actually, this happens, I know, because I've worked on SquareUp before. This happens when you have duplicate counters collecting the same data in the dashboard, right? So you see this line, this horizontal line connecting this end to that end. That actually happens if you have duplicate counters. So why that has happened is because I've also got Azure Stack HCI management pack and a Windows Server management pack. So it basically brings a lot of duplicate metrics in the database. So it's actually one of the recommendation is to either turn off the same metrics from in either of the management pack, either turn it on in Azure Stack HCI or the Windows Server one. So I have actually not bothered a lot to do that, again, like I said, because this is just the sake of curiosity and lab testing. So this is just overall health, the standard SCOM health state that comes from so again, so how you deploy, how you get or how you connect this source to SCOM is basically you just deploy agents like you would do on any other VMs, right? So there's 2 ways of monitoring Azure Stack HCI, the host level and then the guests level, right? So at the host, you've got the actual hardware servers with Azure Stack installed on it. And then at the guest level, you've got Windows or Linux or Kubernetes engine or whatever you can have, right? So this dashboard is just for Azure Stack HCI nodes. If you wanted to, monitor something on the guest level, say a Windows machine on a guest level, so it's basically the same process. It doesn't matter to you whether it is it is sitting on an HCI or your in-house Hyper-V or even for Azure for that matter, right? So it just goes ahead, install that agent, and guest level monitoring is done that way. So these are just very similar counters that you see in S2D and Windows Server environments. So I've got some network adapters. Again, these are virtual NICs at the moment because I don't have the physical hardware, but in a real production, you would have RDMA network connections or network adapters or some going for internal communications. You would have different network adapters for everything and so on, right? So just a very high level of overview of the network adapters health. Then you've got logical disks here. Again, this is just a Windows machine essentially. So all the Windows features, all the familiar Windows environment that you see here is the same. So you've got disks, you've got CPU, memory, IP addresses, you've got the number of CPUs, you've got CPU cores, physical CPU cores. So in this example, I have these are the virtual cores. But in a real production environment, you would have physical cores and whatever number of cores you have there.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've done basically here is I've split them into two dashboards here, Adam. So one is the health one, as I like to do. I used to do this. I've built a couple of dashboard packs when I was in Square Up, Adam knows. So this is the example, this is the approach I always used to take. I would just segregate the health and performance, just so that it's easy to, have a bird's eye view on the health on one dashboard, and then a little more detailed view of performance on the other dashboard, right? So again, here you see in the logical disk free space percent and logical disk free MB, you see these are the duplicate objects
Mm-hmm.
here. Again, that is because of the duplicate management packs I have. And again, all the metrics you see here are very, very familiar. So if you're not familiar with S2D, this is also basically works the same as any other storage. It's just that it pulls all the storage together and then logically, excuse me, and then it logically, divides or assigns storage to whatever workload that you install on that. Again, it goes the same way. It's just IOPS reads, IOPS writes, latency for reads and writes, and so on. The
Nice.
perspectives on this, yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about the perspectives.
Sure.
The perspectives on this are also very similar as you would see on a Windows Server machine. Since this is essentially a Windows Server, you will also populate the Windows Server perspective here. And if you've got any, memory, network, disks, it's the same thing. This is very, very easy to set up. And you don't have to learn a lot because you, as a Windows admin or as a SCOM admin, you already know this stuff. That is the beauty of not only this management web, but I think HCI in general is that you can use this, you can utilize this while still, utilizing whatever that you've currently been using. So there's not a lot to learn to adopt HCI in your data centers.
Nice. Is there any, obviously with it being a sort of Azure branded service, can you pull all of the can you pull all this equivalent into Azure Monitor, or is it monitoring it on-prem with something like SCOM the only real option?
You can, right? So Azure Stack HCI, so the whole reason the Azure Stack came into being is just like the need of integrating with Azure services. So Azure Stack HCI can natively, integrate with a lot of Azure services, including Azure Monitor. So you can also integrate to Azure Backup, let's say Azure Update Management, Azure Defender for security and all that, right? Sentinel, all those good things. So yes, Azure Monitor is also a way to do this, but the catch is you have to have your cluster always connected to Azure. Right, sure. Because Azure Monitor needs that stream of data going to public Azure, and a lot of our customers don't actually prefer that because the whole purpose of using HCI is to keep your infrastructure on-prem. So they don't usually want to send their data out to public clouds. So usually what they do is they keep it on-prem, they keep it mostly disconnected. And that's why Azure Monitor, some people might use it, but not a lot. They prefer using some traditional tools like SCOM.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I think when I first read about sort of Azure Stack, the pitch was all like, run the infrastructure, keep it all safe, locked away in your own data center. But with that sort of Azure portal look and feel, that management layer on top. So yeah, I can, if that option is there to put this into Azure Monitor, then obviously we could have an Azure Edition dashboard, but they could all effectively take data.
Yeah, even it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. So even if you do connect it to Azure Monitor, you can still continue using whatever Azure Monitor dashboards you've already got. Yeah, right? It's the same thing. It just streams the logs to Azure Workspace, and you can query it as you would query anything else. So it being an HCI appliance does not make a difference at all. You barely even notice that it's an on-prem device at all.
Yeah. Are there any other sort of metrics that you'd consider? I don't know what the management pack gives you, but I'm just thinking of things like, VMware Virtual Machine Manager, various things like that. There are often some like quite hypervisor specific, cluster specific metrics, I should say, like machines being moved, VMs being powered on or off, how many machines are running on which host, that kind of stuff. Are there any sort of platform layer metrics like that, or is it for the moment is it all about the hosts?
So in the management pack, yes, you are right. There could be some other other metrics also, like live migrations and all that. But in the management pack, so far what I have explored, I haven't seen any. I haven't seen any metrics for measuring that direct effect of live migration. But I think it might be more or less captured in the. Let me go back to the health one. Maybe it would reflect in one of the other dashboards, like if I go to HCI performance. So if you go to S2D, this is basically all powered by S2D in the background, right? So if you have a live migration going on, definitely there would be spikes in S2D, IOPS, reads, writes. There would be spikes in processors, utilization, disk space, and everything, right? Mm-hmm. So I think as an indirect effect, you can kind of guess that there's some activity going on, but no, there is no specific metric that that lights up when some migration or anything is happening. I'm sure there might be some event IDs. You can go set up some event ID rules, and then you can probably project that into a dashboard here.
Nice.
But I don't see any performance metrics that way.
That's cool. So just to recap, then it's all Microsoft services. It's all Microsoft management packs. So it becomes a nice, easy sort of SCOM dashboard to use. Very easy to get and deploy as long as you've got the management packs installed. Anything else that's worth sharing, or we covered it?
I think we have pretty much covered it. Yeah, it's so once you have deployed and configured all the HCI components of it, you'd barely even notice that this is an HCI and not a traditional three-tier SAN system, because to a user it makes absolutely no difference at all.
Yeah,
it looks and feels the same, exactly the same as any normal, let's say, normal Windows environment, right? So there's no difference to it at all. Yeah,
I guess that's the perk of going with something sort of built around Windows and Hyper-V, right? It's just a Windows server. There's no extra thing in there. There's nothing else to learn, right? It's all stuff you're familiar with. Awesome.
Absolutely. Unless you're using Azure services, in which case you might have to do some configuration of Azure backup and Azure site recovery even.
Nice.
Or if you're connected to Azure Monitor, then you can, you should know some KQL if you wanted to project that into a dashboard.
Yeah. Awesome.
But it's all Microsoft things.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and wrap us up. Well, firstly, just to say thank you to Samir for sharing his whole new world of expertise around Azure Stack. Really nice to see you again. And yes, thanks to everyone for watching. Samir's dashboard pack will be available in our dashboard gallery, squareup.com/dashboard gallery. And if you have any questions, head over to community answers at community.squareup.com. Lots of experts over there. Samir was once upon a time a very high contributor. So I'm sure if you have any questions around Azure Stack HCI,
I can come back.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's community. Stay in it.
It's community.
But yeah. So thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam.
Bye.